Cześć! Dzień dobry! Welcome to today's lesson on our channel, Polish with Blondes. My name is Kasia, and today's lesson is about one of the basic verbs that you should know when you learn Polish, which is the verb to have. In Polish, it's mieć. Mieć. So in today's lesson, I'm going to give you some example sentences in the present tense. I will conjugate it for you, and there will be a couple of different idioms at the end. So make sure you stick to the very end of the lesson. Right then, zaczynajmy. So first of all, the infinitive is mieć. Mieć. And you can use it in a lot of different examples. Chciałabym mieć nowy rower. Chciałabym mieć nowy rower. O, lubimy mieć dużo czasu. Lubimy mieć dużo czasu. Now let's see how you can use this verb in the present tense. First examples, and then I will show you the whole conjugation. Mam słuchawki. Mam słuchawki. Ona ma pracę. Ona ma pracę. Masz problem? Masz problem? My mamy mały ogród. You could also use it without a pronoun because the form of the verb means that it's the form for a particular person. So instead of saying my mamy, you can say mamy. Mamy mały ogród. Mam 3 córki. Mam 3 córki. On ma psa. On ma psa. I'm going to stop here for a second because you might be wondering why I'm using a different form for a word for a dog. Because if you look it up in the dictionary, it comes up as pies. However, the verb mieć is an automatic trigger for the accusative case. So then the endings change. And the accusative case for the word dog is psa. On ma psa. By the way, if you want to learn more about the accusative case, there is a whole video about it. Take a look at this one. You might also remember a video where we were talking about asking questions in a formal way. Then you use pan or pani and the third person singular of a verb. So let's see what it looks like with the verb mieć. Czy ma pani dokumenty? Czy ma pani dokumenty? Czy ma pan paszport? Ma pan paszport? Now, another thing that a verb to have is useful for in Polish, which is different from English, is when you're telling how old you are. So in Polish, we say that you have a certain number of years rather than using the verb to be. Let's have a look at some examples. On ma 42 lata. Ona ma 15 lat. Ile masz lat? Ile ma pani lat? Ile ma pan lat? Now, let me give you also more examples of different ways that you can use this verb. And this can be useful if you have a doctor's appointment and you can talk about your symptoms. So you can say, mam katar. Mam katar. Mam kaszel. Mam kaszel. Mam ból głowy. Ona ma gorączkę. Ona ma gorączkę. On ma ból zęba. On ma ból zęba. Okay, I think now it's time to go through the conjugation of the verb to have. Ja mam. Ty masz. On ma. Ona ma. Ono ma. My mamy. Wy macie. Oni mają. One mają. Now, if you're wondering why we have two forms for they, oni, one, again, there is a video about it that you might want to have a look at. Apart from talking about how old you are when you use the verb to have rather than to be, another example when you have to use the verb to have rather than the verb to be in Polish is when you saying that something is not available, that it's not there. You say then nie ma. Nie ma. So imagine you are in a shop and you're asking if something is available. You can ask using the verb to be first. So you say jest chleb. And if there isn't any, the answer will be nie ma chleba. Nie ma chleba. By the way, the form of the word chleb changes as well. And the reason is that when you have a negative sentence, like this one, nie ma, it's a trigger for genitive case. So you can try and familiarize yourself with different endings. I'm going to give you a few more examples. Czy są bilety? Niestety nie ma biletów. Niestety nie ma biletów. Przepraszam, czy są świeże pączki? Niestety nie ma już świeżych pączków. Niestety nie ma już świeżych pączków. Let's use a few other names of different food. So imagine you are making a shopping list and you're checking which products you don't have anymore. And then you could say nie ma owoców. Nie ma mleka. Nie ma herbaty. By the way, there will be another video about genitive case quite soon. But coming back to the verb mieć, let's take a look now at some idiomatic phrases with this verb. So the first one that I want to teach you is mieć ochotę na coś. Mieć ochotę na, which means to feel like doing something, to fancy doing something. Let's take a look at a few examples. Mam ochotę na coś do jedzenia. Mam ochotę na coś do jedzenia. Masz ochotę na spacer? Masz ochotę na spacer? By the way, after this phrase, mieć ochotę na, you need to use a noun or an adjective with a noun in the accusative case. So far I've used masculine nouns, which don't change, but now let's take a look at the feminine one. Masz ochotę na herbatę? Masz ochotę na herbatę? Macie ochotę na przerwę? Macie ochotę na przerwę? Czy ma Pani ochotę na kawę? Czy ma Pani ochotę na kawę? It's quite a commonly used phrase, so I think it's worth remembering it. Now, next one that I want to teach you has quite an opposite meaning because you use it when you want to say that you are fed up with something. And it's an idiomatic phrase, and you say, mam tego po dziurki w nosie. Mam tego po dziurki w nosie. Now, dziurki w nosie. So if you say, mam tego po dziurki w nosie, that means that you have enough, like, to this point. But it can be translated as I'm fed up with something. So a few example sentences then. Mam po dziurki w nosie tego hałasu. Mam po dziurki w nosie tego hałasu. Mamy po dziurki w nosie tej deszczowej pogody. Mamy po dziurki w nosie tej deszczowej pogody. In this case, the whole phrase is followed by genitive case. There is another way of saying the same thing, and it is mam tego powyżej uszu. So this time, uszy, you fed up with something like up to this point, like above your ears. Let's see how it can be used. Mam powyżej uszu tej okropnej pogody. Mam powyżej uszu tej okropnej pogody. Mam powyżej uszu tego hałasu. So again, you use genitive case following this phrase. Time for some practice now. See if you remember which form of the verb mieć you need to use in the following sentences. So you're going to see it on screen and the verb is missing. See if you remember it. I'm going to give you a few seconds to think about it and then it will appear on your screens. Let's begin. On 30 lat. What's the form for the third person singular? On ma 30 lat. On ma 30 lat. Let's take a look at another one. Ja. Mały ogród. Ja mam mały ogród. My. Ochotę na coś do jedzenia. What do you think is the verb form here? My mamy ochotę na coś do jedzenia. My mamy ochotę na coś do jedzenia. How about this sentence? Czy pan dokumenty? Czy pan ma dokumenty? So in formal questions, when you use pan, pani, you want to use the third person singular. Czy pan ma dokumenty? What if you want to use the formal question in plural? Czy państwo rezerwacje? Czy państwo? What do you think the form is there? Czy państwo mają rezerwacje? Czy państwo mają rezerwacje? Although you can also use second person plural, so you can say, czy państwo macie rezerwacje? By the way, remember there is a whole video about formal questions, so how to use pani, pan, państwo. Which form of the verb will you use in this sentence? Jest w domu masło? Nie, nie masła. So you want to say there isn't any butter. How do you say that? Do you remember? Nie, nie ma masła. Nie, nie ma masła. What about this sentence? Ty, katar i kaszel. Ty. So what's the form for the second person singular? Ty masz katar i kaszel. Ty masz katar i kaszel. That's everything for today's lesson. Also remember there is a worksheet that you can find in the link below. Have a good day and see you soon. Do zobaczenia. Cześć.